All right, just to go over a few agenda items that Chris had displayed. We're going to first go through the CLIF program update. This is an opportunity for the program team to share some charts of spending and our funding balance for FY23. Then we're going to transition into FY24 budget supplementals. Then Chris will give us a status update on that. And then lastly, we'll go through the FY25 budget update. This is where we'll announce the projected slate of funding opportunities for FY25. We'll also go through some items for elimination. I know Chris is going to be discussing an item for elimination in FY25 budget. Then we're going to transition to the review of the FY24 year-to-date activity. This is an opportunity for LDC members to ask questions about CLIF funds, where they are with respect to their budget and their spending year-to-date. But this is also an opportunity for us to this is also an opportunity for us to talk through some of the line-by-line items for the CLIF project information form review. I know Chris wanted to discuss that pretty intently. So for the good of the order, is there anything else to add to this agenda before we get started? All right, hearing and seeing none. Chris, I'll turn it over to you, sir.
All right, thank you much. So I just wanted to show you all the meeting schedule, and are the slides advancing for everyone? Good.
Yes, sir, they are.
Good. All right, they weren't doing it last time. Okay, great. So this is our meeting schedule. You'll notice that we went ahead and decided to cancel the September 11th meeting. That was going to be the FY24 year-end report. What I have learned is that it takes a while for finance to close out the year end and fix all the little things that may have gotten misplaced, and there's a lot of auditing needs to get done. So I didn't want to set up that expectation, and so we said we'll just go ahead and remove it, and we will see where we are, and I'll send it to you as soon as it's ready, and then we'll discuss at a further meeting. But those are your meetings. I'm also going to this week go ahead and send out the meeting invites and the holds for those, so you can have those holds on your calendars. Any questions about the meetings? No. Okay.
Well, I'll just say Peggy Jackson-Job joined us, and I think we do have a quorum because it's actually 7 is 50% of our. We have 14 members, so double check.
Fantastic.
Welcome, Peggy. I will double check the numbers for the minutes.
All right, good, thanks. All right, so just a couple of snapshots of the FY23, and yeah, I'll send the slide deck to you all, so you'll have these, and then we'll be sending out the full report in the coming months once it's all done and gussied up. But this just shows our budgeted and our expenditures for FY23. You can see the Mayor's Office of Employment Development is always spends about their budget, and did some really good work there. Had a pretty good turnout for Youth Works, and they're hoping to ramp it up again for next year. I'm not going to go line by line on here, but does anyone have any questions about any of the spending that you see there? Nope.
Chris, I did have a question. Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
I'm
go
sorry.
ahead.
I did have a question about the Citywatch CCTV camera expansion project. Where are we in that project process?
So we'll cover that in the meat of the meeting.
Oh, in the meat of the meeting. Okay, perfect.
Yep. I'll give you an update on that. But there's a lot going on with that.
Mm-hmm. So, and I know we're going to talk about police funding in the current year, but I see that they were under for last year. Is that because there was a credit?
Oh, yes, that's a good point, Ethan. Yeah, so in FY22, they overbilled us by accident for something they're supposed to bill to the casino for the casino's actual costs. And so we were able to work with finance to figure and BPD to figure out exactly how much the overcharge was. And they credited that off of our FY23. So that is why that one is underspent. No, good point.
Great. And someone else just joined by phone. I don't know if it's a double. Someone's in. Who is 440?
That's Casey O'Neill. Sorry, I'm driving and was not able to get in via the Teams meeting.
Oh, hi, Casey.
Oh, wonder. Great to have you.
All right, so there's that. This is the just a sort of reminder of our yearly revenue and the growth or contraction for each year. And just you've seen this before. I just updated it for FY23 to show the actual. Oops, didn't click that yet. Actual revenue and the average per year. Then the projected. I think that FY24 is going to end up coming in lower than we had anticipated. But we don't, we'll see where that is, but it's not enough to really cause too much consternation.
Just as a reminder, how long is the casino license for?
Well, the agreement for the local impact grant funds was for what, 20 years, Ethan? Or 15, 20? Trying to remember.
The current funding regime is through 2032. It was 20 years from the opening of the first casinos, the small casinos, which was in 2012 or fiscal year 2012. So the renewal, when it goes back to the General Assembly for renewing the, reviewing and hopefully renewing the local impact grant funding formula, that would be in 2032. I can't believe it's not that far away, but under 10 years.
If it was a football game, we're in the third quarter.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And this is the same information, just some people like graphs. Graph showing, again, that purple one is the average, but of course, COVID wreaked havoc on that. So this handy dandy chart is basically shows the far right column is how much is in our quote unquote fund balance. That's money that was at the end of the year, end of each year was not spent and has accumulated, gone up, gone down, gone back up again. Now we are trying to get it back down again because we don't really want money in the bank. We want it in the community. So as you can see, we very aggressively pursued some additional community development funds and other items in FY24, which we'll talk about. And so if FY25, we're showing a year-end fund balance of 154. We never spend everything. So we're comfortable even if our revenue is low, we're still not going to spend everything anyway. But that's where we are. So that's where we want to be. We want to be back to spending the money. And, Ethan had a heck of a time trying to budget during COVID. And luckily we had some money that we weren't expecting to have. So that's why we had that big increase there. So now just want to just give an update on the FY24 budget supplemental. It was slated to go to Board of Estimates for approval early February. The BBMR had some technical and administrative concerns about, so they pulled it, but they're going to figure out a way to make sure it's still available to be used for our projects. But it is that is still in effect. So just in case any of you were reading BOE board last minute change orders and saw that on there, that's why. We didn't even find out till sort of recently either. FY25.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, go ahead. Yep. Yes, ma'am.
Did they share some of the issues with the BOE? Like what was some of the issues? I don't remember seeing or hearing about that.
So what happened was that we were working with Director Laura Larson and another gentleman from the Bureau of Budget Management and Research, John, who's our main person to get this to BOE to pass. Laura is currently out on maternity leave. Congratulations to her. And when it got brought up, Benjamin Broche, who is the finance director, I believe, right? Wasn't quite sure what it was and had some concerns about the administrative burden, and if it was that was the most appropriate way to go through with it. And since Laura was on leave, they just decided to punt until they were able to sort of reconvene and make sure that that was the mechanism through which they wanted to get this money out the door.
Thank you.
Yeah, we didn't learn this till after the fact because we saw it on the agenda and figured it was going through, but.
Yes, I did not read all of the documents on the page. I went back and looked at it and found it, yeah.
Chris, can you just, you've done a great job pulling from different places for this meeting, but can you just explain the columns on this? So this is.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I forgot.
We excerpted this from another table, so.
Oh, yeah, sure.
At my request, so.
Yeah, I
So
apologize.
this is what original fiscal year 24 budget, supplemental funds for various reasons, and then the total, is that?
That's correct. That's
Okay.
correct. Yep. The first column was again, these are just items that we're changing in the budget supplemental. You'll see the full the full budget.
Right.
Rate.
Yeah. So that's
But,
why it's only 10 lines. These are the lines that got additions or were added where they didn't have something before.
And again, we'll go through those line by line. Coming up. Was there any other questions about the supplemental process? No. All right. FY25 budget update. There's an exciting development I think everyone will be happy about, and that is that the Baltimore Police Department Casino Subdistrict is effectively going away, and there have been discussions and negotiations between BPD and the mayor's office and the Horseshoe around some of the security concerns around the Horseshoe. And so that line item is going away. But there will be a half of it. Sorry, I've got a frog in my throat. Half of it will continue to be used to support the Horseshoe and the security in and around the Horseshoe. Exactly what that's going to look like is still TBD and way above my pay grade. But the exciting part is the other half is going to be allocated, earmarked for park projects and try to get those moving along more rapidly. So that's very exciting. We're still figuring out exactly what that means. But that'll be pulled from, that is definitely being pulled from the FY25 budget and replaced. The very last minute, like literally half an hour ago, update is that we believe that this will also become retroactive to FY24. And so that's also exciting. So we will have another $500,000 out towards park projects in FY24 as well. And then again, that it may end up being more than half, I think, but that's all that's being worked out right now. But that's going to go help fund some park projects. So that's very exciting. Does anyone have any questions about that? Alex?
I did have a quick question. So we're already in February. So if the resources are being retroed back, what's the strategy for ensuring that those resources actually hit the communities?
So, so BPD so far has not, except for a little bit, as you'll see later, has not billed us for anything this year. So that's not an issue. That doesn't have to be rolled back. Then the allocations to the park will be made through either through the supplement, and that's sort of fortuitous that the FY24 supplemental got held up, is that now whatever way they want to make that happen, this will also be included in that. And so we'll find out more details, but it'll, since it's a capital allocation, it will hit the budget for that project as soon as it passes whatever administrative hurdle needs to pass. And then Mike?
Yeah, so I missed the transition. So these resources have been needed for approximately 12 years. And now they're not.
Right.
So what changed?
That's a great question. That's a question that Tyler had, who's on here. Thank you, Tyler, from Senator Ferguson's office. And that's something that he's going to talk to Horseshoe about and find out more. The conversation I had with the Horseshoe, with Randy from the Horseshoe, and Sean from the mayor's office, Randy and BPD has been working with them to provide the coverage that works best for them. And so, from the Horseshoe's point of view, that this solution works better for them, even than having more funding go towards police. And so again, I don't know a lot of the details on it. All I was told was you're getting $500,000 back to put in, and the deal was it was going to go into parks. And so I think that makes me happy. I think it's a win overall. And when I do find out more information about exactly, how that support is going to be given to the casino, I'll share it most likely in the May meeting. We should have all the information by then. Yes, James.
So we decided to approve a budget at a certain period. And so I think this was included in that approval. So now that we are reappropriating, I guess that's the correct term, do we need a vote on that? Or am I hearing that this was an executive decision, or am I misunderstanding something? Sorry.
Right, that's a great question. This was basically an executive decision that came down from the mayor's office. I don't believe that in past years we've voted on these sorts of changes. Ethan, can you think of a time when something like this happened? And what the?
I cannot. So
there's no one for everyone.
Yeah,
but your point's well taken.
Yeah, this is a new situation.
So
we've had kind of mid-year allocations with surplus funds, and what Chris went through with the fiscal year 24 supplemental was probably the most formal version of that. But
and now
this is a different situation. Yeah.
And has there been conversation about the gap for the Warner Street project? Because I'm wondering if this has something to connect with that as well, or no?
Now that was
the gap
go ahead.
for Warner Street.
Mm-hmm.
Warner Street's fully funded. As we talked about, when we passed the FY25 budget, we figured out and got approval, got a sort of positive vote from the LDC on the gap funding, which is in future years for, it's in FY26 and 27 for which kind of lines up with the time span of the project, because it's basically 2 years. It hasn't started construction, so it'll take us into FY27. So no, it's not. This is not directly related. This is I think, coming more from question whether this funding for police really makes a difference in police's budget, or I mean, we could say that this is funded. This funding was made available when the casino was opened, and it created a new burden on police. But another way to look at it is, well, it hasn't been 12 years, but it's been since 2020, since 2014. Yeah, so 9 years or almost 10 years. So I think one way to look at it is that police has figured out how to absorb this coverage into its routine operations and budget rather than us having to put a supplement to it.
Okay, but I think it goes back to Mike's point. Yeah, I think it goes back to Mike. Yeah, I'll let you ask the question, Mike.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, again, as a member of this advisory council, right, for the executive branch, right? I think it's important for them to communicate why these services are no longer needed.
Yeah.
As a neighborhood representative on the council and as a engaged member of the neighborhood, right? I would like to know why those services are no longer needed. I have no oppositions to, they figured it out. They've done something. We get to reprogram that for parks. Great. I just need the other half of the story.
Yep.
Me too.
Well, so
we'll work on that.
I'm sorry. I don't like my questions or the moments that I raise issues to be ignored or passed over.
Can you
I just want to
reiterate?
repeat that. So my question or concern is that there has been a decision to reappropriate the dollars to parks, right? And parks is a great thing, I like that. But as I look at my community and see the roads in such terrible conditions, and I also examine that, I go to Baltimore City to repair my backyard with a sinking foundation due to a sewer main failure and them refusing to really make me whole. I'm just thinking there's so many other issues or projects that we could spend this money on, if that makes sense. So I don't agree with the reappropriation without the approval of the entire board, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that does make sense, James. And I think that Chris had mentioned that the mayor's office had already made that decision, but maybe we can go back and see if there's an opportunity for us to have this as a board vote, for sure.
Yeah, because there needs to be some pushback there.
Okay.
So it's regarding the process particularly. Is that this accurate summary?
And also the appropriation of the funds to parks. I think that's what you were saying, James, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. All right. So now I'm going to get sort of into the heart of it. I shared with you all some of the project information forms that I adapted from the ones that were created by our partners over that run the PCDA branch of the local impact grants, and so it's going to be an evolving tool, and we wanted to sort of soft launch it in FY24, start to sort of play around with how it works. James, did you still have your hand raised for something else? No? Okay, great. I just want to make sure you didn't have another question. And start to see the type of information that people would like to have, when reviewing potential projects. Oh, you do have a question, James? Your hand went down and went back up again? Oh, okay. And start to grab. So the idea is that we've got I've reached out and worked with our agencies and some of our grantees on getting a lot of the information in there, and then presenting it to you in this format here, and we'll start to go over it some. And so let's just take a peek at it again. These are they're designed to be compacts. I think is a good way of that Ethan's put it, that will sort of formalize every year, every fiscal year, and then when we do supplementals, formalize between the agency and CLIF and the LDC what it is that this money is going to do, what's going to be, where it's going to be used, what's the timeline, what's the detailed budget, and then what are the outcomes that we want to see, and how do we track those outcomes, and how do we then start to analyze, how effective is this use of the money, and how, if it's a recurring thing, a recurring program, then how do we fine tune it for the next fiscal year or for future years? If it is a one-off project, just learn what can we learn from this for future one-off projects, and again, get that desired outcome and scope of work, the budget, the timelines, the metrics, and some things don't have good metrics to them. They're going to be more of a narrative. But that's what I want your all's input on. And in terms of how to gather that collaboration, I've spoken to a lot of people about a lot of different ways of doing it, and talked to our wonderful people over at the Baltimore City Information Technology Desk, office rather, and they have agreed to set up basically a place for us to collaborate, where we can put these documents and you can read them and you can see them and you can comment on them and say, I like this, I don't like this, I think, I don't think 80% is good enough for this metric, they should hit 90%, and have those sorts of discussions. And without getting too much in the technical weeds of it, it basically will be hosted on Microsoft Teams, which we're on now, which again will allow us to have chats about things, work on documents directly, host calls, et cetera, et cetera. All LDC members and proxies will be invited to participate. You don't have to participate. Agencies and some grantees may also be invited to directly collaborate, so we can sort of cut out the middleman and have direct discussions. And so there'll just be a little training on it, and just for security reasons, acceptable use agreements, so on and so forth. And then we're also looking to have some meetings also as well, where we can discuss and collaborate in real time, in between now and the May meeting. The idea for the May meeting is we want to have refined the scopes of work and metrics and even the forms themselves. Everything is up for input and advice, and on how it's changed. It's going to change over time. It's a Word document now. I hope to get it a little bit more more easy to use. But right now it's the Word documents, and we'll work on them together. Now, I also want to be very, very respectful that some people don't want to work in a Teams collaborative environment, and they would rather, read them on their own time, print them out, whatever. And I want to make sure that there's opportunity to meet everyone where they are, and make sure that we get your input. It's not going to be as iterative as a real-time people commenting and discussing online, but I do want to find a way so that those that don't want to participate will still have the full access to what's been done, and then to give me feedback, and then I'll incorporate their feedback for them on the site. So don't want anyone to feel left out because they don't, they just don't want to be in that realm. Yes, Ethan.
Hi, I'm just curious. This sounds really like a cool, exciting tool. Is this available when we create this platform? Is this like a channel, a forum for all LDC business, or will it just be for the work on the project with the project info sheets?
It's a great question. I had thought about that, about what else it might possibly be used for, and it certainly could be used for other things beyond this. I didn't want to get too messy with doing too many things at once. So I think for now, that's going to be the main focus. I'm sure I think it would be nice to have we can have there's different channels that you can have. You can have a channel to talk about safety, a channel to talk about parks in general. Then you can also, work directly on documents. I think it'd be nice to have a channel just for informal, by the way, we're having our block party this weekend, everyone's invited, those sorts of things. My granddaughter's doing a concert recital at, school, whatever. More fun things as well. But generally, I think for now, the main focus is on getting everyone's input on the types of information we want to know from recipients of CLIF funds. That was my goal. And then they say, well, just do teams. I said, well, that's great. And that gives us a lot of other things we can do. So what other questions do people have on it? And I'd like your feedback. Are you like, that sounds like a great idea? That sounds like a horrible idea? Alex.
So I have a couple of pieces of feedback. I like the idea. I think there's a couple of opportunities for deepening some of the information that could be gathered. One, encouraging the grantees to use a results-based accountability framework for performance measures. That I think would be extremely helpful. I would love to have the opportunity for grantees to share stories that are perhaps not success stories, that won't show up in the data. And then the objectives, we definitely should ensure that they're using a SMART goal or SMART objective framework, so that, whatever they're going to be measured, there's some thoughtfulness around it, and also including what data sources grantees are using to reflect whatever they're reporting on. But other than that, I think it's a great way to start collecting additional information from how the resources are being spent.
Great, thanks. Yeah, those are the sorts of things that we really want your input on. And so that's what we want to hear and make sure. And yeah, we'll go through them and see what our initial metrics are. That, some of them were given to me by the agency and they looked good, and I just put them in. Some of them, there's been some back and forth already, but everything is up for grabs, revision, amendments of what exactly each part of it looks like. If we need to add another column, if we need to add, other ways of refining the information, absolutely. And right now, the way it's set up is on more of the front end collection of the information. And then as we refine that and as we get that sort of solidified, then we'll shift to, okay, so as they're reporting out quarterly, what does that look like, and how do we incorporate that and compare that to what they said on the front end? And so, yeah, it'll be a lot of fun, I think, to start refining this. It's gonna be a lot of details, a lot of little devils in those details. I need your all's help to squash them. Any other thoughts? No? Okay. Here is, you can read this, the entire FY24 budget along with the supplemental. This does not reflect any potential changes with BPD. Again, that's looks like it's definitely going to happen. It's just got to make sure that there's no technical snafus that prevent us from doing this in this budget. But that is our budget, and that's what we're going to go down today. And this is our spending snapshot through Q2. Sorry for all the extra letters and numbers. That's just how the reporting comes out, and have enough time to pretty it up. Now, the one that you're going to see at the top you can ignore that. There was some sort of little snafu there. We did not put $5 million into the casino support maintenance reserve. That is 2.5 million for Florence Cummins Park and 2.5 million for Warner, right? And then so that is not all going to maintenance reserve. They don't typically need that. Mayor's Office of Homeless Services, they've been billing. They're actually billing ahead of schedule, and we're working with them on what's going on there to make sure they stay within budget. But we'll go through all of these line by line. But that's basically the gist of it. Does anyone have any questions about our spending so far year to date? And that complete streets, they're looking into that as well to see what that was and why that's in there. There's again, there's been some snafus with the reporting, and so I've been having to do a lot of auditing on what's been coming out. Yes, Casey.
Yes, thank you. I was curious if the casino was able to provide any detail on what the spend for the Warner Street project went to.
Like the budget itself?
Yeah, because I think you mentioned that this is spent to date. So I guess if they have spent the $2.5 million, I was just curious on what.
Yeah.
Good question.
I can explain. So as Chris said, this is a report from the city's finance system. And the good thing is we're tracking it. So we saw this major mistake where the Office of Information Technology saw $5 million in casino funds hit their books, which was an error. It was supposed to be $5 million split between the two projects that Chris referred to. So but what that was it was moving money from a revenue account to a capital account. So in answer to your question, Casey, nothing has been spent. The construction, I think I probably said it before you joined, the construction on Warner Street no, that was a meeting I was on at 4 o'clock. Okay, construction on Warner Street is ready to start this spring. But so nothing's actually been spent on that capital project. But if this $5 million were coded correctly, what it would say is $2.5 million moved into a capital account to be available for Warner Street, and 2.5 million moved into a capital account to be available for Florence Cummins Park as part of multi-year funding efforts. So it's almost like loading up money on the credit card, but it hasn't been spent yet. Based on that's what's in this report. Yeah.
Thank you. That's helpful. I guess in that case, it would be great to see if we could get a better understanding of what the casino plans on spending the 2.5 against within that project. I know that at least in Pigtown, people are curious about what's going on, and they're eager to understand what the development will actually be.
Okay. Yeah, if we get to it, I mean, I could talk about it now, but it's also one of the projects. We're going to go line by line through the projects. So.
Oh, perfect. Not urgent to answer right now.
Yeah, if we don't get enough detail tonight, I can follow up afterwards.
All right, great. All right, so we're going to blow through these, and you're going to have all these to review in detail, because there are there's at least 3 pages for each line item, just because there's a plethora of information. And again, you all have full opportunity to read through these. These are just to let you know what the snapshot is of where these are in time. They will be refined. We will get your input, and they will be updated. So don't feel that when you read this and you say, "Oh, well, why does this have this in there?" Well, we can put that in there. So love to see that. Let's see. Sorry. Computer's being weird. Okay. So for educational partnerships, we do not need to fund the Reading Partners program after all. And so that we weren't able to take that out of the budget, but it will remain available after this year. For future spending. So that's 100,000 out of the out of that line item. But then we also had 25,000 in there for St. Veronica Summer Reading Academy, which happened this past summer. Here's your timeline. Again, these are all the different parts of that you'll see in the template I sent you. When it started, when it ran, what's up with the billing. Here's their detailed budget for the program that they provide. The budgets are going to look pretty different because they came from different places. So they're not going to look very uniform. Expenditures currently being processed. The contract is for up to $23,950. And down below are the metrics. Again, they have not submitted their billing yet, so we don't have the actual performance on the metrics. But those were the ones that were set up by the Mayor's Office of Children and Family Success on the front end back, in the summer. We just adapted them into the format. So that's how it's going to run for each item. Start off with the budget allocation, what we allocated for them, what they said they were going to do. We're going to talk about their timeline, see what we have for a detailed budget, and then we'll see what expenditures they've done, and then have the metrics. Does anyone have any questions about that? No? Okay, great. I think we'll try and, for the most part, blow through these in a way that everyone can see what we're looking at and read and enjoy. And then we will try and save time at the end to come back to have any longer discussions. But I do want you all to go ahead and, if you have a quick question, ask it. If you're not sure if it's a quick question, go ahead and ask it, and then we can either figure out if we have enough time to talk about it or table it, because we do have a bunch to get through. So does that sound good to everyone? Good. Does anyone have any questions about St. Veronica's Summer Academy? No? Okay, great. Summer Head Start. That is a perennial good project of ours, our friends at Associated Catholic Charities, running a 7-week summer learning program. And this really builds off of some of the other tutoring programs that we've supported. Really helps stop the summer learning loss and prevent it, and give the kids some extra good, healthy activities during the summer. Timeline, it runs June 11th through August 11th. I'm sorry, June 26th to August 11th. Quarter 2 and 3, they process the billing and reporting. Q3 and 4, they prepare for summer 2024, and there's their detailed budget. It's not, we don't pay for everything. Part of it is funding funding from the Maryland State. I'm sorry, let's see, I want to see what some more intentionality around performance measures. Okay, well, yeah, let's get to that.
Yeah.
Here's the expenditures that are currently being processed. Will be 150,000 Q3 or Q4. And so here are the metrics that we are working with here for that. So as you can see, number of children enrolled, they registered 90 children, and 18 of them ended up not actually enrolling because they found other opportunities or or other camps. So my question to them was, how do we make sure that we register enough children so that we get 90 enrolled? And so we're going to look at that. Part of it is still just lower numbers overall from COVID, but they think that they can get them back up to 90 next year. The question?
No, I think another thing we've looked at in the past is having more locations. Last summer, Westport Academy wasn't available because they were having renovations. So we'd like to bring that location back, but
That's true.
we should probably.
And Alex, do you have a question or you want us to address it in the chat?
Nope, I'm good with things being in the chat. I'm not trying to like derail us into like long conversations, but this is an example of if enrollment is low, then we don't have any sort of activities that support that objective number one that's around recruitment.
Okay.
Right. That's great feedback. That's exactly the type of feedback we want to hear. So, yeah. So again, the number of 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds who are maintaining their pre-summer level of proficiency was another one that was listed, and then provided at least 3 approved field trips, and they ended up doing 5. Again, this is all up for debate as to if these are what you all want to see as metrics that are tracked. And we had also just talked about, yeah, again, it's going to be different for every program. So some of them are just going to, we say a minimum of 3 measurable activities. But for some of them, it may be, better to have more. So any other thoughts on Summer Head Start? No? Okay, great. In the Employment Connection Center, this one.
I think maybe in interest of time, maybe we should take them in clusters by agency and then go back.
What do you mean?
Well, as you go through them, maybe we sort of run through a couple at a time. By if there's a couple with an agency, we just sort of highlight them, and then we could take questions or toggle between them.
Okay. Yeah, the Employment Connection Center. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, and just to make sure that everyone reviews them, if there are any questions, we can follow up with the subsequent meeting after.
Right. Yeah. Again, this is just a preview of this is what we've got so far, so you can see what our starting point is, so you can know where you'd like to see us go. Again, timeline. They give a good timeline of that. There's been some hangups in the rideshare start due to contracting and procurement issues, but that's hopefully going to start in Q4. I also saw BOE approved their a contract with some of the training organizations that the ITA individual training account line item is for. So they're hopefully going to be moving forward on that. These are their expenditures, and I did neglect to put in the ITAs in here, but there's no spending been done in that because they didn't have a contract. But they said that they do have a bunch of people lined up for CDL training, and those are quite expensive. So that's going to burn through it pretty quickly, and they're hoping to get those now it's past BOE, get the moving on those very quickly. So we should see some residents doing some CDL training very shortly, which is great. Here's some of their metrics that they have shared. They want to have 450 customers enroll in the ECC this year. So far, they are about halfway there. And they're coming into their busy outreach season, so that's good. Again, there haven't been anyone placed in training yet for the reasons we discussed earlier. And then residents placed in employment. They are a little behind the schedule on that, but again, the summer tends to be the busier program. Does anyone have any quick questions on that? No? Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. What's going on here? That's right. I neglected to do the slides. You guys can yell at me if I do that. I mean, you all pretty much know what the ECEC is, but here's the timeline and their detailed budget. And here are their expenditures and their metrics. Good. YouthWorks allocated $550,000, and that runs for 5 weeks. You can see there the timeline as outreach and staff development, website improvements, youth and workforce applications. And then they put out job offers in Q3, and then they do the program within Q4. There's their detailed budget for the wages, for the MOED operations, and indirect support costs. Again, expenditures have not hit yet. They'll bill in Q4. And there are their measurable activities. It's hard for me to see here. 600 youth will complete a YouthWorks application. 100% of applicants will be matched with the job opportunity. And then this last measurable activity, I wanted them to think through that one a little bit more, and see if we can't get information more related to how many complete the full 5 weeks, and then what sort of follow-on data they have to see, like, how many, what effect does it have on, graduating high school? Because there's wraparound financial literacy and other components to this. So I'd like to see some other outcomes in there as well. So I would like to work with you all on that. Does anyone have any questions about YouthWorks? No? All right, great. BARCs. I think we told everyone that we were approached to help fund BARCs, and that is so the number of youth from the impact area. So this is they do everyone. What they count for us currently, and I'm going to work with them to get a more refined tool, is everyone within 21230. So that mostly overlaps with our district. Oh.
They include two. I'm forgetting what the zip code for Cherry Hill is. 21225. They include that too. Both.
Yeah, that one also. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes, they know they do cover the district as it's supposed to be, and then obviously doing Cherry Hill.
But based on zip codes, they might go beyond the exact boundaries of the district.
Right, but I'm on my to-do list is to create a tool for them, a web-based map tool that they can run everyone through and see their addresses lie within the district or not. But it's just all my free time. Yeah, so BARCs, yeah, they're gonna supply a budget and pay out in Q3 or Q4. We didn't have any defined metrics really for this program, I guess, to support their operations, and they've just gotten overwhelmed with people who got COVID animals and then said, oh, actually I can't afford a pet, or this pet's eating my couch, or whatever, all the normal reasons plus extras. So they are just inundated. If anyone needs an animal, please just go to them. They have plenty of animals. Friends that went recently and got some kitties and puppies, and everyone's loving. Any questions about BARCs? No. Home services.
It's a question to think about if we think that will be a recurring. I mean, I don't think we anticipated it being a recurring cost when it was requested, but
they have not requested further funds.
Yeah.
I think they have to get later into their fundraising cycle to see what they have for the following fiscal year. I think. I don't know. That's a good point, well taken. But it was sort of said to us as a one-time thing. But if they ask again, then we'll bring it to you again. Homeless services, of course, they again recently reconfigured their outreach teams to have one per council district. We have 2 extras that only work within the Gateway district, so really increase that outreach. We've been able to work with them, with homeless services and some of our community partners, to address some of the issues that they've been having. And it seems like we're getting more responsiveness over there. They have new leadership. And I think they're open to more input and open to more engagement about what the priorities are for members of the neighborhood. I've been I'm always trying to connect our different programs together. And so definitely been getting MOED more involved with that, those who are ready for work, and making sure that they get directly connected into MOED and other ways. So definitely want to hear thoughts on that. Here is, they didn't really provide a timeline so much. I think it's just mainly year-round outreach. I did ask them if they could provide, if they have anything they did want to add, but they haven't given me anything yet. There is the detailed budget. Basically just the cost of the individual personnel costs. Oops, skipped. And again, you are going to see here in Q1 and Q2, those add up to pretty much their entire yearly budget. And again, that was an oversight that they are working to fix, so that those should drop about in half. And it's probably related to the fact that we had been providing extra support during COVID for shelter coordinators. And they probably just forgot to reassign them to a different cost center. So I'll keep an eye on that and make sure that gets fixed. Again, metrics, the new leadership is working towards that and sort of looking at how they track what they do. I'd like your input on that so we could share that with them. Yeah, again, any input is welcome. Any questions about that? About homeless services? No? Okay, great. Community Development Fund. This has been a lot of fun. This is great. You can read about it all there, but I think it's also, yeah, we just talked about it. I mean, Cherry Hill Development Corporation, update for them. 2 of their homes should be done in March, maybe April. And then based on the performance of the contractor on those 2 houses, they will hopefully renew for 2 more houses to have the same contractor do the 2. If they want to find a different contractor, it's going to be delayed a little bit. But they want to get started right away. They have new leadership as well, and are moving things much more quickly. So that's been good to see. And look forward to that. Then once they're done those 2, then they'll have 1 more to do within the 150,000. Then they'll be able to bill. So probably will not bill until FY25. The Westport Hubs program, DHCD came out in December and interviewed applicants. They're working with the applicants to get their work done. 1 already dropped off, and some others have not handed in their paperwork, so they're going to continue to follow up. And if they do not decide to use the funding, they're going to get new people to sign up. So they're working on that. Middle neighborhood strategy implementation in Cherry Hill. That's going to be getting underway probably Q4, maybe. I wasn't able to get an update on that, but I think it's going to be Q4 that they're going to start that implementation. And then $300,000 for the grocery store in Mount Clair Junction. And then we still have $269,000 that is available for future community development projects. Here's a timeline of just sort of when each of those started to make their way through the process. There's just the budget as a laid out in that form. It also shows you, what we have allocated for FY25, FY26, and then what we have committed for those years is just middle neighborhoods. So that can let you see, how much, we still have more money to spend on projects. And DHCD and our community partners and best leveraging it. Again, this is leveraging $3.5 million from the Gateway partnership as well. So there's going to be they're taking actual applications and processing them through a certain their process. And then we as a city will be trying to be strategic and nimble in filling in where it's not a good fit for them, but it's still a good win for the community. As LDC representatives, I definitely would love to hear you all bring ideas to us. Talk to your local. If you have a community development corporation in your neighborhood, talk to them about opportunities and see what they're doing. They're all aware of the Community Development Fund. Neil Friedlander, who used to be with Costello's office, who's now running that, been doing a great job of getting out there and trying to meet people in every neighborhood. He walks up and down the streets in Mount Winans and Lakeland and just talks to people and looks at the housing and tries to figure out ways to get things moving. He's a great partner. So any opportunities you all see, let us know, and we'll make sure that they are being considered either by us or by the Gateway partnership. So here's the expenditures, no expenditures to date, and then that's when they should hit. And then the metrics there, we're looking to renovate 5 houses. We're looking to have 5 houses in Cherry Hill. We're looking to have 5 houses upgraded in Westport. And then the housing counseling services, we're still getting metrics from them as to the types of outcomes that they are going to be tracking. It's being done in a bunch of different neighborhoods using ARPA funds. We're the ones using CLIF. So obviously the feds are going to want to have certain reporting done. So it'll probably dovetail with what they're already doing for that. Again, I haven't gotten an update on exactly what that is, but your input again is desired for what that middle neighborhood strategy should be trying to have as outcomes. Anyone have any questions on that? No? Okay, great. Moving on, code enforcement. Long story short, the code enforcement officer is in training and should start hitting the streets as a trainee pretty soon, and then will start to be on their own within Q4. I had a great meeting with Deputy Commissioner Eric Booker about this, and he wants to start himself, if he can make it, or his deputy if not, start attending neighborhood association meetings and other outreach events, because there's already code enforcement being done. It's just we're going to have extra code enforcement that will be able to be more nimble and respond and be more proactive in working with our communities and educating communities. So that, if you look here, sort of our metrics that I went over with him the other day, and he wants to reduce out of compliance properties by 20% annually. That's one goal. Do at least 6 neighborhood walks with community partners each quarter, and attend 5 different neighborhood events such as block parties, festivals, stakeholder meetings, whatever else, would be a good place for them to come and say, here's how code enforcement works. And this is how you can put in, this is what, breaks the code. This is what doesn't break the code. This is what happens when you put in a 311 request. This is when we put on a warning. This is when we put on a citation or a notice or a citation. They have different things. And here's what we'll do to, remediate if they don't fix the problem. And so, again, we're going to have a big push on that directly from DHCD's Code Enforcement Office. So very excited about that. The other thing is that we are giving them funds to purchase additional anti-dumping cameras. And these are different from the current ones that they have in that they have their own power supplies and are able to capture more because they don't run out of power every time someone walks by or a car just drives by, or and so they'll be able to capture them a lot more, and they're connected to the internet. So they will be able to be reviewed on a much more regular basis. They don't have to climb up a ladder to take out a SIM card. The initial 2 locations will be in Westport, per a lot of requests from the community and the CAO's office. On it's really bad. It's horrible there, and I know it's bad in other places. And we want, these are going to be very mobile. You'll be able to just go up there, take them down. They have to put them up high enough so people can't mess with them, but they will be able to move them to all locations, strap them to a different pole. Again, they just work off the Wi-Fi or the data network, and provide them with real-time viewability, visibility. And then again, those 311s will be critical, because if they say, hey, there's been dumping here, it happened between yesterday and today, like it helps them hone in and say, okay, it happened right then, like, yes, we're going to do that. And then will code enforcement officer be focused on any particular areas? They are for the entire Gateway District. Mm-hmm. They are for the entire Gateway District. They're going to respond to 311 requests just like any other code enforcement officer. But then also they'll have that additional outreach and engagement portion as well. If code enforcement can work with schools to look at safe passes, walking routes to schools.
Yeah, I believe I don't know if that would fall under code enforcement as opposed to DOT, but that's something we can look into for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think that would even be more City Watch.
That would be a good idea. Yeah,
it's more City Watch. But the point's taken that, cameras are there. People know that they're there. They'll be able to see them. They're not concealed cameras, but again, there are more out of the way places where people go to dump things. Is really their role. But that's a point well taken. Absolutely. Any other questions about code enforcement and the cameras? No? Great. School-based violence intervention. This is a program that is currently forming. It's getting its act together. I think you all know the program scope. This is the budget for all 3 schools. They're working on trying to define it out more exactly what we're paying for, but we're not paying the whole bill. We're definitely paying part of the bill, and we're getting a pretty good bang for our buck, because they weren't going to do a 3rd school until we said, well, how much do you need to do a 3rd school? And they said, well, we need 125 or whatever it is. And we said, okay, that works. So we're getting a pretty good deal on the overall budget. And then again, expenditures, this is soft launching Q3, Q4. Again, the program design is in development. So I don't have any metrics for you. Again, we want to hear the types of outcomes that you're looking for from this program. And again, hopefully it's part of a continuum of giving people tools to deal with our emotions. I could use some tools to deal with my emotions sometimes, and finding solutions, and having it come from people who have credibility with the kids, and that's important. The young students, that's important to have that credibility. I don't think they find me very credible. Thanks, Alex. Yeah, look forward to your input. I know you had some thoughts on the school-based violence intervention, so really happy to work on that. Does anyone else have any questions about that program? No? Okay, well, moving right along here. Clean Core has been doing a great job. They have met their baseline requirements and have started to expand their scope of work and provide additional training to their their team and workforce and other social services to them. Again, we are funding this because the city did not have enough ARPA funds to do all of the neighborhoods that were eligible. So we are funding Westport. Timeline, cleaning and greening throughout the year. In Q2, they began to implement the whole block strategy. Originally, as it was written, they had the scope more narrowly to alleyways and vacant lots. This new scope, gives them sort of a clear mandate to also do, Annapolis Road and other areas which may have some more high traffic and be able to respond more to just different things that come up. So that's something that they were able to do. Not all Clean Core partners have shifted there. This one is actually doing pretty stable and pretty good, well-run iteration of Clean Core. The expenditures, they're billing in sort of tranches. They billed their first payment in Q4 of FY23. Their second payment will be in Q3 or Q4 this year. That program, the manager for that program at Department of Planning, unfortunately left for a job with the state. And so we have a great gentleman who is learning the ropes as quickly as he can. And we're talking about some metrics and very interested to see what sort of metrics you all would like to see. And again, you can see from the metrics provided here, we'll have some work to do on exactly quantifying what the outcomes we want to do rather than just what happened. But that program's going well, and we just need to tell the story a little bit better. Any questions about that? Oh, okay, great. Community enhancement projects. This one is a big, messy one. This is, been around. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Been around for since 2015. Different pots of money were allocated to different neighborhoods and different initiatives aimed at supporting anchor institutions. This is our current. This is a historical budget that you see there. This is not an FY24 budget. This is a historical, how much was allocated to each neighborhood, how much they've spent, and how much they currently have to allocate. There are a couple little questions about some of them that we're working through some of our partners to see if they got charged correctly or not. But more or less, this is up to date. The ones that we are doing in FY24, we supported increased security costs and lighting and traffic management costs for the very fantastic Cherry Hill Arts and Music Festival that's held on 4th of July every year down at the beautiful Middle Branch Park. If you don't attend, you should attend. It's amazing. Pratt Library, we're providing support to the library itself for the renovation in the new building that'll be going there. That building is currently in the design phase where they're working through the various city design agencies. When it does get built, we'll have $100,000 for them to buy books and computers and chairs and whatever else they need. And then again, some neighborhoods have some little bits left. And yes, does anyone have any questions about community enhancement projects? Here's some of the detailed costs of some of the projects that were funded.
I should say that the Cross Street Market roof, those funds were probably allocated before it was redeveloped.
Yes.
I would think that those funds could be.
It was during the redevelopment. It was a cost. It was
Oh,
an
did-
unforeseen
Oh, it's
cost.
here. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so those funds are spent. There's none remaining.
They're
I
spent.
misread.
Yes, I'll go back to that
That's
one.
fine.
Yeah. So
Disregard.
mhm. Yep. The first column is allocations. The second is the amount spent, and then the third is the balance for that particular project. James, you had a question?
Yes, Chris, I'm just wondering if the PPT documents or the PDF documents, such as this, that have the numerical values, do you have those in Excel format? I just searched the emails, I didn't see them.
Yes. Yeah. All this comes.
Okay.
I'm in Excel way too much.
Okay, can you send those to me when you get a chance, please?
Sure.
All right, thank you.
Again, here's a list of some of the projects, trees and trimming and stuff like that in Berry Circle, trees in Carroll Camden, 2017 Art Festival, Federal Hill Park and Street trees. South Baltimore got a pretty new gateway sign. Ridgely's Delight, where I used to live, got a nice update to their park there, which we really appreciated. And then you can see some of the other ones there as well, types of projects that are funded. We also did receive a request from city schools for school 33, right? Ethan, the digital, was it the Arts Academy in Fed Hill, for some upgrades for that I think are working its way through figuring out what the total scope is. But that'll be a good way of investing in our youth in that. But those are the current,
Yes, I mean, what's evolved is this was originally, as the list that Chris went through shows, there was originally, some of you were around then, there was this idea of $50,000 grants of services to each neighborhood. And so that's why they were more neighborhood focused projects originally. That was never renewed. So then there were these series of kind of more one-off looking projects, which we've talked about. And I've suggested moving them into the community enhancement projects and thinking about them, where we might then think about them, metrics for projects like that, if requests like that come up in the future, thinking about them as their benefits as community anchors. So, it might be a funding gap on a project, but is it a project that benefits the community, or is highly leveraged, for instance? So while, fixing the roof on Cross Street Market wasn't very sexy, it was a funding gap that came up on the city-owned building during the developer renovation of the market, redevelopment of the market. So we haven't brought it to you yet. We haven't really considered, and we would bring it to you if School 33, which is a city-owned facility, formalized a grant request. We could develop metrics around that for how something like that is, has benefit under particular metrics.
Yep.
Thanks.
Any other questions about community enhancement projects? Okay, environmental education programming. This is something that we funded historically and sort of took a hit during COVID, and it's ramping back up now. So this is supporting 10 schools in the Gateway District with sustainability initiatives and educational opportunities, professional development opportunities for the teachers, and then projects, funding for projects so that the students can do their own gardening projects or greening projects, rain gardens, those sorts of things. And so that's going to be kicking off in the spring. Here's the timeline. Here's the budget. Again, it's about a quarter of it is for the salary and benefits for the National Association staff. Again, this does not cover the full cost of their program for this. They have other funding, but it helps to expand their reach. Again, field trips for 10 schools, professional development for teachers, a field day for those that have the school green teams. There's different like ways that they can become certain accredited schools to receive funding through the Green Healthy Smart Challenges, and so that's $25,000 directly for those projects. The aquarium are so wonderful to work with. They are really on it. They gave us all sorts of metrics that again you all can review in your leisure. But sustainability project metrics, field support metrics, environmental professional development metrics, and the field day programming as well. Does anyone have any questions about the environmental education program? No. The neighborhood planning studies. We have two neighborhoods that approached us asking for funds to do studies. One is Pigtown Main Street, focused at the area south of Washington Boulevard, sort of in between Washington Boulevard and sweeping down over to the entertainment district. That is changing rapidly from just warehouse and light industrial to a bunch of breweries and a new coffee roaster and coffee shop, furniture stores, those sorts of things. So they're looking to find ways to attract businesses to help help sort of take advantage of these changes and give more benefits and better pedestrian infrastructure. What do we need in terms of pedestrian infrastructure for people from Pigtown to be able to get to the entertainment districts, to enjoy the walk on Warner and the O's and the Ravens and so on and so forth. So that is going to probably begin in the summer. I would say that one will start. And Westport also is looking at, they have a massive new development coming on the waterfront there, but the Annapolis Road corridor needs a plan for how those businesses and the vacants there can be best utilized to meet the needs of the community, and come up with a plan. They want to have a plan that focuses on providing entrepreneurship opportunities to current residents, to have businesses that will benefit from this increased population that they're going to have there soon. Here's the timetable, pretty much just what I told you. And then that's the budget for the Pigtown Main Street one. So $40,000 will be paid to a consulting firm that is chosen by a committee that will be made up of representatives from the Department of Planning, the citizens of Pigtown, the Carroll Camden Business Association, and other stakeholders that are identified during the process. If anyone has any interest in being involved in that, let me know and I will pass that along. And so, yeah, there's some meeting costs and a little bit of staff overhead for that one. Any questions about neighborhood planning studies? Another one that we are looking into is, we'll see exactly how it gets done, is that Mike Murphy approached us for some ideas on how to have resources to deal with, just all the people that are constantly partying in Fed Hill and South Baltimore, and just a lot of impact there, and sort of how can we work towards making it, I don't know, Mike, you can say it better than I can, but I want to give a 5-second spiel. I'll give you 20.
De facto entertainment district. So, inevitably a few times a month, resources are pulled into the Federal Hill area and taking away from resources that should be policing in other parts of the district. So actually, Delegate Clippinger and Senator Ferguson both introduced legislation to help with this as well, as far as for grant funds.
Yeah. So again, those are the types of things that, you know, we want the communities to bring to us as concerns and opportunities. That's a good example. Any other thoughts? Oh, moving right along. What is, yeah, we don't have any expenditures on that. Q4. Middle branch initiatives. This is another exciting update that the job application for the middle branch, Reimagine Middle Branch project manager has gone out, has posted, and that individual will be within the Office of Sustainability and will really take a big load off of Ethan's overflowing workload and work very closely with Ethan on you know, all the projects that need to be undertaken within the Reimagine Middle Branch initiative. So permitting and brownfield mitigation, working on the trail network, whole kit and caboodle, and coordinating and advancing all the various R&D initiatives. The other, and there again, that position is going to look to activate a lot of federal money and state money, so it's going to be a good return on investment. There's the timeline. They're going to be going out. They're going to be joining us March, April, maybe. We'll see. I don't know. It takes the city a while to hire people sometimes. And then the balance of that will go towards a multi-year commitment to the Hanover Street Bridge, which is a vital corridor, which is not especially pedestrian friendly. I don't know if anyone's noticed. And it needs a redo, obviously. And so Ethan, can you talk a little bit about exactly what this study is going to do?
Sure. Can you go back one slide? So it's
Yep.
just a list of, you know, really this pot of money is to be available to deploy for activities that come out of the Reimagine Middle Branch plan, which we're actively continuing on working on through implementation. So when we budgeted it originally, it wasn't always, you know, with specific line items in mind, but it becomes available for them. So one light on, you know, one item out of the overall budget, as Chris mentioned, would be a staffing position, which will be starting late for this year. So that frees up other money. We're looking at just where it can be deployed for various studies. So one of them is it will be cost sharing with City DOT on a structural assessment of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Bridge or the Hanover Street Bridge. That's about a $1.2 million structural study, which is necessary for figuring out future uses on the bridge. And that's an important, literally down payment or start on the work required for going after federal funding. And to that end, we just submitted today with DOT a $15 million planning grant application for the bridge, but not only for the bridge. It's for the entire Hanover Potee Street corridor, coming out of the coalitions and the ideas that were brought together in the Reimagine Middle Branch plan. We're not just looking at the bridge. We're looking at the corridor from I-95, partnering with the folks in Baltimore Peninsula, down to the north side of the bridge, across the Hanover Street Bridge, into Cherry Hill, with various partners there, into Brooklyn, and really looking at trying to integrate and advance the initiatives like the Baybrook Connector all the way down to the city line through Brooklyn. So that's very exciting, because if we're successful with the grant, we'll have the planning dollars to do all the environmental work for federal approvals, do 30% design for the entire corridor, and be able to then be a candidate for more significant construction funds from federal sources. So it's all kind of tiered together, you know, putting money, helping DOT get over the finish line to fund the structural assessment is a key part in doing this larger study.
And I cannot overstate the amount of time, effort, and thought that Ethan has put into this, along with our partners at the Gateway Partnership. It's really very, very good strategic investments that have already been paying off with how much funding have we raised for R&B projects so far? 50, 60 million? I don't even know. You remember, Ethan?
Yeah, we could do a presentation on that, and many of you that are on the SBGP board are familiar with the numbers or the scope. So including all the work teed up for the resiliency, Middle Branch Resiliency Initiative, our tally is about 170 million. Now, a lot of that is coming for work on the shoreline in the water, the FEMA work. It's going to be beautiful, but we also want to keep funding the work that we don't want to just create a wetland zoo out there for people to look at. We want to integrate that work along the shoreline into the parks, trails, boardwalks, and then going inland from there into neighborhoods like the community development fund that Chris talked about before. You know, how are we also doing equity investments while we're greening and cleaning and improving the parks? So a lot of moving parts, and many of you participate through that, you know, in that initiative through the various committee, Reimagined Middle Branch committees. So thank you for your time on that.
Mike?
Just gonna say, you know, I've seen a lot of the work going on the Reimagined Middle Branch, and we haven't got directly involved in that from my neighborhood association perspective, since that is on the south side of the bridge. When you start bringing things into scope on the north side of the bridge, right, for the peninsula, we are also on the peninsula. That is directly, you know, that work touches our neighborhood.
Yep.
And I
Yeah, so
I don't
it's
feel that
often
involved.
mentioned as a barrier. You know, the pedestrian infrastructure down by you, Mike. Yeah, trust me, that is very much a topic of conversation. That's a horrible pedestrian infrastructure down there.
I think,
Well,
Mike, you were saying you want to be involved, correct?
I'm just saying I don't feel very involved
Okay.
Oh, okay.
at this point. So,
yeah,
you know,
welcome more involvement. The
Well-
SBNA is represented on the Community Advisory Committee for the. So again, we can check in and see who the representative is or add representatives from your neighborhood. So there's 5 advisory committees.
if there is someone, they're not participating in the neighborhood association.
Okay, or they're not reporting back, or one or the other. So
I can say with certainty they're not participating in the neighborhood association.
Okay.
If they are, I might be wrong, but.
Or they're not, or our representative isn't coming to this Community Advisory Committee meetings. So
One of the two, yeah.
yeah. So happy to, you know, I'll work with Jasmine Kimball, who's the also your area rep, and she's chairing the Community Advisory Committee along with Michael Middleton. So we can reach out to several of the neighborhoods where we're not getting great participation and see who might be more interested in being engaged on that. For the grant proposal that I just referred to, SBNA was reached out to because this S8 Hanover Street corridor will, and the study area will, I mean, it won't go beyond Wells Street, but it's tying in there to make sure that the connection under 95 between South Baltimore neighborhood and the Baltimore Peninsula development is much better.
Right.
Which is also the subject of a Maryland highway grant application. But yeah, happy to have you involved and give you more updates on things we're doing at the north end.
Thank you.
Great. Enhanced solid waste services. This is the casino crew that goes around and clears out the corner cans, provides enhanced pickup for the corner cans in Federal Main Street, Washington Boulevard, other corridors. They also provide proactive and reactive street cleaning and 311 responses as well. DPW is chronically understaffed and right now is really bad. It's just a really, really tough job market out there. So they are understaffed as well. So as you see here, their annual budget is was it 346 So far, halfway through, they have only spent about 76,000. So the work is still getting done. It's just that the way that they're doing is pulling in guys from non-casino crews to make sure it gets done, but they don't have any reason to go and actually charge us for that. They're just using other personnel. So again, that's a constant thing. I've been talking to DPW about that. Like, is this something, how else can we help you all do your job, and so on and so forth. We have, because they are chronically underfunded, underspending. Yep, good to see you, Mike, and the rest of the updates will be available to watch on YouTube. If you really bored or need to fall asleep. And so we'll talk about that in a second. So oops, let's go back to that. Yeah. So the metrics, he was not able to get me the metrics in time for the meeting, but they they will give us how many times they visit, each corner can, as well as the tonnage that gets pulled as well. And so for marine trash, our other side of our pickup, this is pays for a contractor to put out boats and put on their their waders, and go out and clean out all of the trash in the middle branch. And their original budget was $350, and we gave them extra 100 in the FY24 supplemental to give them extra weeks of service. We're looking at trying to give them a little bit more to make sure it's nice and tidy throughout the summer. But they do a really excellent job, really good partner. They've been working with the Mayor's Office of Homeless Services as well to help provide some service to some of the unhoused folks who stay in congregate areas. And so they've been working with them to provide some litter removal before it gets into the water. So that's been great for them. This is a map here of where the booms are located, and all the different outfalls within that section there of the middle branch. There are other services that do some of this work outside of this area. There's another trash wheel down at Masonville Cove. There is actually a trash wheel here as well. It does not catch everything, and so they take care of some of the things that does not catch, larger logs or things that make it underneath the boom. So that is their boom locations. Here's their detailed budget. So it's basically per week. So this is the cost per week of a crew. And they are currently slated for 30 weeks for FY24. And it's really a 52-week job, but that's a lot of money. So we're trying to be strategic with how and when they go out. Here are the expenditures to date. Again, sometimes these track fiscal years, sometimes they sort of don't. But here are the performance metrics that they gave us. And again, they need to be more refined. And so I've started conversations with them about putting some numbers to these desired outcomes. Does anyone have any questions about marine trash? Oh, okay, great. Solo Gibbs Park. So we had originally intended to put 2.5 million in in the beginning of the year. There were some miscommunications with finance. Only 2 million got loaded from our budget, so we did a mid-year supplemental that extra 500,000. So that will match the city. They put out their capital improvement plan that has all the different capital improvements using all the different funds. So it says 2.5 in there, and now this will reflect that 2.5. Phase 1 was completed in 2023. Phases 1B and 1C are in the design phase right now and are expected to break ground FY25 and give you some more detail on that. Again, it's mainly planned work this year. Here are the cost estimates for phases 1A through 1C. And then expenditures, 250,000 was intended. Again, just sort of, I told you about that before. Again, we may get, if this casino sub-district changeover does occur for FY24, you know, these may change. And then here's just a good overview of the park itself and the master plan. And I can send the full master plan. Actually, I'm waiting for, I'm trying to find where the master plan exists online for people to view. And if it doesn't exist there, I'll put it on the CLIF website so people can see the entire plan for that. Well, that was that. Does anyone have any questions about solo gigs? No? Okay. We're almost done. Warner Street, yeah, so now's the time to talk about Warner Street. There's just the project scope. This year is the third and final installment of the original $7.5 million capital commitment, which matches $5 million state funds. Again, there have been cost overruns. And we have committed, as we shared the last couple of meetings, we committed $1 million per year in FY26 and 27 to help finish off that project. So let's talk about that. What questions do people have on Warner and Stockholm Street Scaping project? None? Okay.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to hear from me regarding that, so I'll shut up.
All right, fair enough. Oh, Casey.
Casey, yep.
Yeah, I guess I would just reiterate my question from earlier, not what the money has been spent on, because I know it hasn't been spent yet, but curious if the casino could share details on how this $2.5 million is planned to be spent against this project in a bit more detail than what's outlined here.
Yep.
Ethan, do you have any idea of when the final project budget should be finished?
Yeah, the project budget is done. It's bid out. It's under contract. I don't know the exact numbers. It's about $14.5 million, all in construction. You know, engineering was previously paid for, some of it with casino funding in an earlier year, and some with funding from BDC. So, I mean, I could share plans, but it's a full rebuild of the street of Stockholm Street from, if you know the area, actually we could probably see it on the Solar Gibbs Park plan. Maybe, I don't know. So it's okay, not right. So Stockholm Street goes from Sharp Street alongside Topgolf to Warner Street, and then it's a rebuild of Warner Street from the Casino Plaza at the south end. I think that's Worcester Street, 3 blocks or 2.5 blocks north to the entrance to M&T Bank Stadium at Austin Street. So
Ethan,
yes,
if it's possible, if it's like any documentation
Sure.
or any plans, if you could just share it out. I think that's what Casey was asking for.
Yeah,
Okay.
we can add them to the PowerPoint. We can at least add a diagram, site diagram of the PowerPoint, and some timing.
And then
Well,
also
well,
the budget as well. I believe she requested like detailed
Yeah.
budget information for the 2.5 as well.
Yeah, I'll just say it's not
Okay.
2.5, it's 9.
Well,
Yeah, so, yeah, so
okay,
it's 2.5 this year,
this
as
year, I
part of a
think that's
$9
what she
million
was asking for.
contribution.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's what she was asking for.
Yeah, if it's easier, just share the whole thing instead of breaking that out. That's totally fine
Sure.
too. Just
Yeah.
trying to get a better understanding of what it's being spent against and then also the plans.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, these are just installments. When you see 2.5 million for the year, that's an installment towards the overall capital contribution. But happy to break that down and both show the total for the construction cost and how this matches other state funding that's going towards the project.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'd also like a copy of the breakdown if possible. Thank you.
Yeah. We'll try to add it to the slides here, at least a
Okay.
summary, a couple slides. We could put a diagram of the site, you know, where the project is. Again, it's probably 100 pages of construction drawings, but we can show the design layout and then an outline of the budget sources and uses.
Yeah, and I'll try and find, yeah, we'll find what we have on that. It should all
Yeah,
be,
we have all-
yeah, it's all
we have all
public.
of
It's in like BOE or something.
No,
I mean, it's all had to go
Chris, we
through
have
BOE.
all,
Yeah,
we have
all of it.
lots of files on all of that.
Too many files.
Yeah. So, happy to share. We'll start with what seems like summary info, and then if if anyone wants more detail, the drawings themselves or detailed construction budgets, we'll work on getting that to you.
Yeah, if those could be shared, even if it's just like an after as an appendix or like a link, that would be great.
Okay.
All right. I guess I shouldn't have moved on yet. Does anyone have any other questions about Warner Stockholm? No? All right, our last one. City Watch. Ethan is the City Watch czar. Do you want to give us an update on where this is?
Yeah, it's another one that's complicated, a lot of moving parts. What's good news is, as you saw at the beginning, we probably had amassed a pool of about 750,000 over multiple years. And it was piling up because these projects were taking years to get planned, procured, and constructed. And then there was one delay after another, including delays last year when the city IT department's contract for the fiber for the vendors that did this work were on hold and challenged from a procurement standpoint. So there were about 6 months where when we had the money and projects were designed, they weren't moving forward. That got worked out in the fall. And we now have, and I'll add these to the slides, we have 3 projects currently in engineering or construction. And they are multiple phases in Westport, sort of a finishing phase in what we called the Stadium District. And I started calling it the Stadium District because it was sort of crossed over between neighborhoods. So it was Sharp Leadenhall, kind of a hub of blocks in Sharp Leadenhall, Federal Hill Business District, and Otterbein. And then there's a third build out area around Federal Hill Park. The total of projects in the pipeline, and I keep asking, when are these going to be done? And I really think they will, hopefully by our May meeting, they will be done. There are cameras going up this week too in Westport, but there are others that are still in engineering and estimating in those 3 projects. If you want, so Westport's the most exciting when it gets done because there are multiple layers to it. We started years ago bringing fiber for cameras to Westport. We're on Annapolis Road. We were then waiting for the rebuilding of the bridge over 295. When that happened, we brought fiber to the west side of Westport. And so there's now fiber in the ground no cameras yet, although maybe by Monday there will be. There's fiber that reaches Westport Homes and the Boys and Girls Club building. That fiber is now a resource for installing some cameras, and we could always install more, although we have to negotiate with City Watch on some of their equity and the spending power they have citywide. But the initial or a second build out of cameras in Westport should happen in the next couple of weeks. The fiber coming there led to, so another phase was then the Housing Authority was able to leverage that fiber, and so they got a federal grant, and they will do extensive security cameras inside Westport Homes. The thing I'm most excited about, because I wasn't that excited working on this for years just to bring cameras to neighborhoods, and hopefully we don't need cameras eventually, but they are a tool and they are a value, desired by communities. But the resources, the investment of bringing the fiber to that location means that Westport Homes will be the first pilot project working with HABC for bringing in-home broadband to Housing Authority residents. And so that's partially paid for with the casino funds because we paid for the fiber, but then the installation, the modems, everything, the hookups into the buildings, that's being done with, I believe, with ARPA funding by the Office of Broadband and Digital Equity. But we were able to get to the front of the line by having the fiber there. And I also, urged BSID to do this as the first case, because then we can look at it as a proof of concept and a test to see how things work, bringing the broadband into the to HABC residents. So, Councilwoman Porter?
Yes, that larger aspect of the project, where are we for ETA on that? So I know you mentioned that some of the cameras were going to be going up to Westport, but what about the larger HABC project? Do we have an ETA on that?
Well, there are two HABC projects. Yes, that's all shovel. They've been running fiber. I don't know what it looks like there, but they've been digging up the campus there. The conduit is in. I'll have to get the exact timing, or maybe I can look at my notes from the BSIT meetings, but that's well underway for the cameras to be installed in Westport Homes, and the infrastructure work has gone in for the broadband connections. I don't know the timing. We have to check with them directly, or we can follow up together with Kenya Usley and the Office of Broadband and Digital Equity for when they anticipate doing the installation for the broadband hookups. But I would say
the reason why I asked is because I actually spoke with Kenya actually a couple of days ago, and she mentioned some issues. So that's why I'm asking about an ETA, because the timeline that you're mentioning with the timeline that she's mentioning doesn't match up. And so we can definitely talk offline about that, but I just want to make sure that it's continuing to keep going. It's been a long time for this project, and I want it done. So, okay.
Yeah. I'm going off the timeline I heard at the last project status meeting, but they would be more involved in the day-to-day of it. So.
All right. Well, that is the last project to discuss this evening. I guess now it's just what are everyone's sort of overall thoughts on the type of information that we're collecting, the type of information we are sharing with you all. Obviously, take time and think it over, and we'll discuss it in the future. But just any first thoughts and how I can sort of continue to craft our collaboration so that it's useful for you.
I think one of the most resounding things that came out of today's discussion was making sure that we have quality performance measures for each of these projects. I think Alex kind of really brought that home in the chat. And so I'm wondering if there can be a follow-up. I know I had talked about like a program committee or something of the sort where we're doing some of those kind of in-between meeting discussions. Alex and Casey seem to be bringing up those type of performance metrics and then financial ETA questions during today's call. So I'm hoping that after we can follow up with at least both of them and James as well, with regard to some of like the quality of how we're evaluating the programs, but also what we're truly spending those funds on as well.
No, that's fantastic. I will reach out to your office to set up a time to speak.
No, if you want to follow up directly with each of them, I think that would be
Oh, okay.
appropriate. Yeah. So it was
Okay.
Casey, James, and Alex. They had pretty good feedbacks, and Mike as
Mhm.
well. Pretty good
Okay.
feedback about, the quality of the programming as well.
Well, in terms of finding a time and a format for the committee meetings and sort of how this dovetails with the work that BSIT is doing on the new collaboration site. We don't want to wait on BSIT, right, to start talking and collaborating.
Right.
So to that point, yeah, I welcome the input of what type of collaboration, how that looks. It's one-on-one conversations. That's great. But then also meeting at some, again, I can meet once a week if you want to.
Sure. No, but
So
I think we're talking about two different things here. So
Okay.
yeah, my apologies. So one is just some of the resounding comments throughout the entire call about the quality, about how we're evaluating the program. So Alex had mentioned earlier in the discussion about some of the evaluation of how we're evaluating performance of like the reading partners, St. Veronica's, and things of that nature. So what I was saying, those four individuals kind of made some great comments and provided great feedback on tonight's call, and it may be an opportunity to follow up with them. Oh, great, Casey, like an email chain or something where like we're gathering that information for the next meeting. Subsequently, when we talk about the program meeting, I'm just saying that could be a vehicle. I don't want to put another meeting on people's books, but that may be a vehicle that I brought up at the first meeting about some of the standing committees that we could have related to, getting some of this work done in between these larger LDC meetings, whether optional or mandatory.
So we could follow up and document, individually, and then document those ideas and bring them together to a work group. I'm wondering, is there interest in a smaller group meeting? So we have 2.5 months before the next general LDC meeting. So is there interest in a sort of work group or
Yes.
ad hoc?
Yes,
So
I think
we could have
that's
two.
appropriate. Yeah.
Okay, so we could
I
have
think that's
2
appropriate.
meetings between now and then.
Yes.
Okay. And we can reach out with individuals and vice versa to sort of develop, materials for review and discussion at those meetings. Great.
Right, and I will be getting some more detailed information from BSIT, and we'll be sending a follow-up email to all of you, inviting you to join this collaboration and just sort of need to get some information about you about how you're going to be accessing the site. They need some device information and stuff like that, and then just going through that. And again, for those of you that don't want to use a collaboration site and want to prefer, meetings and more one-on-one discussion with me, again, that'll happen as well. And so we'll follow up, lay out the options and get, give everyone opportunity to weigh in as to how, what level of collaboration they want to be involved with and how they want to be involved with it.
All right. And Chris and Ethan, thanks so much for all of your hard work on this. I just want to commend you all. I know, these are some of the things that we had talked about at the first meeting about how we can increase more transparency with LDC funds, having more community input. And so I just want to thank you because this is really what I was talking about. And so I know this is a two-hour meeting, but I will share with you that just from a transparency perspective, many community members are looking at some of these funding vehicles, and it's going to be very important that we maintain that transparency and accountability, allocating these funds out to the community as well. So thank you. This is great work.
Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone, for your time.
All right, for the good of the order, is there anything else before we conclude today's call? All right, hearing and seeing none. Since this isn't a formal meeting, I won't entertain a motion, but I will just say thank you all for joining tonight.